Serious, what really messed up thing did a teacher do to you? I had several that treated me like crap in elementary school. I had one that twisted my arm, giving me an Indian burn for making a harmless joke as a 6-year-old. And another that took me into the hallway several times to literally scream at me. One that twisted my arm. That's just abuse. Please tell me they got fired. She told other teachers I was obsessed with or in love with her or crazy. I wasn't. But I was suicidal. She said it was all for attention. I was the butt of every joke in the teacher's lounge. 2 other teachers told me. I'm left-handed. So my writing in school was a little smudged. A student teacher on placement came up to me and flogged the back of my hand with a steel ruler. I've still got a scar from that undefined. A little more lighthearted than the other stories. In 3rd grade I was making a presentation in front of class. In the far back of the class I saw the substitute teacher pointing at her crotch and mouthing something under her breath. I was really confused. At the end of the presentation I just had to know what the heck she was doing. MRS. Smith. What's the matter? Calm nose. Your zipper is unzipped. I looked down. My underwear was clearly showing. Everyone started to point and laugh. Nearly 20 years later and I still triple check to make sure that I zipped my pants. My English teacher in 8th grade hated me. So when she saw I had got full marks in a test, she grabbed my test sheet and scanned it with full attention to find any minor mistake. She found a spelling error and deducted a mark. A friend of mine had a spelling error in the same test but he had only half a mark deducted for the same. Ugh, I hate those teachers. They're like the ones that don't say anything when the annoying group of girls are having a loud conversation and on their phones. But when a boy asks another boy for a spare pen, it's detention. I went to school without wearing a bra. I was 13 and completely flat-chested. But I guess the barest hint of nipple through my shirt enraged my teacher. She made me stand up in class and asked me if I thought it was appropriate to come to school dressed like I was while pointing at my chest. Then asked if I was showing off before ordering me to the principal. Nasty. Bitter old woman. I was in 1st grade. With another girl and I being the only kids of color in either of the 1st grade classes. One of the other kids got lice and my teacher, horrible woman, decided to only bring out me and this other girl to the hallway and aggressively check our if to suggest we were dirty and the cause of the lice. I went home and innocently told my mom. Because me being 6 I hadn't realized what happened. My mom lost her speep. She threatened to sue the school district and demanded the teacher have disciplinary action. Nothing ever happened to the teacher, unfortunately. My mom only got a hefty apology from the principal and my teacher just never bothered me again. To this day, my mom still gets pissed talking about it and hates that teacher. Once my math teacher broke my 200 Beats headphones and refused to admit what she did. I then got ISS for 2 days. She also claimed I cursed in class but I didn't. Other students in the class said I did not curse. She didn't want to admit she was wrong and gave me 3 days of islands. What's ISS? Detention or something like that? Also, beep that bitch for breaking your headphones. Pretty much detention yet. ISS in school suspension. In 2nd grade my male teacher picked me up and held me upside down in front of the class. I was wearing a dress and it fell down over my head so everyone saw my underpants and chest. Years later I found out he was fired because there were rumors going around that he did inappropriate things with his students. In grade 8 my geography teacher refused to use my name. She didn't like me because I was quiet and referred to me as Lizard because she told me that's what I reminded her of. In grade 10 my health teacher used me as an example of someone who would be attacked by a predator because of how I presented myself. They weren't rumors. Clearly what he did to you was inappropriate. I had a cool history teacher in JR. Hi, we'll call him Mr. J. He was in his 20s and seemed relatable and was well liked by all of his students. I started wearing makeup this year. I'm sure it looked like speep because I was going through my goth phase. Anyways. One day he asked me why I was wearing so much makeup. I said I liked it and thought it made me look better. Then he said, "You don't need makeup. Makeup isn't for girls that are already pretty." At the time I thought this was really nice and it always stuck with me. Fast forward to years later. We found out that this teacher went on to teach high schoolers. He was caught sexting a 16-17-year-old and is now in prison. So now, That nice comment he gave me in 7th grade feels really cringe. Undefined. When I was in 3rd grade, if you didn't have your homework done, the teacher would throw you a pity party. She would make you stand up and then have the entire class chant 1, 2, 3, a w. Then she would put your name and the assignment in what she called the F tablet. She claimed that if you had a single assignment in the F tablet at the end of the year, she would fail you. You would also lose recess privileges. She was a giant flaming cunt. POS history teacher beeped my older sister while she was still in high school. She consented to it, but she was still a student, so she was just foolish and he a creep. He's in prison now for demanding nudes from students to keep A's. When they confiscated his laptop and phone, they found over 150 images of child pornography. That's so beeped up. How does that even work? I mean, one child telling their parents would be enough to get him locked up, right? I'll go first. It's a story which I only remembered some years ago. I come from an immigrant family, Iraqi. I was always an extremely shy and introverted kid. Never talking much. So one day the teacher starts talking about antisemitism and he says how I am Iraqi, which means I hate Jews and I would love it if they all just died. Some people looked at me. For example, a buddy who sat next to me asking me if that's true. I said that that's not true and that I respect everybody regardless of religion, sex, sexual orientation or whatever, and I was really confused. It was not a joke because he didn't laugh, and even if it were a joke, it's not a funny joke, and at that age many people will get brainwashed since they believe everything a teacher says. In the end, nobody except the people in class knew about what happened, but that's now probably 7 years ago, and if I had said something to the principal, which I wish I did, the teacher would have probably gotten suspended. Sad that people like that are teachers. In 3rd grade, my absolute speedbag of a teacher pulled the chair from under me and dragged me out of the classroom before I could get up. My family tried complaining about her to the school, but they wouldn't listen to us. It's been nearly 9 years and she's still beeping teaching there. Pisses me off. My 2nd grade teacher mentally abused and yelled at me every chance she could get. I remember she would always give out these math puzzles and at the end of the year, and I didn't know how to solve one of them. She made me come in for lunch and try to finish them. I remember after 3 lunches I was so close to finishing it. She said she wanted to look at it. Said there were too many eraser marks on it. Ripped it in half in front of me. And made me start from scratch. My parents submitted a lot of complaints about her to the school throughout the school year. They never did anything about it. Probably because she was retiring at the end of the year. Beep you, Mrs. O. My 4th grade teacher tried to get me diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses. Multiple times he straight up told my parents that I had mental illnesses that he wasn't qualified to diagnose. He did this because I was immature and he thought that by that age I should be more mature than I was. During recess in 1st grade, my teachers played Right Said Fred's I'm Too Sexy. I can't remember if we were exercising, or dancing, or what. But I must have been singing it at home. Because my mom found out and threw a fit at the teachers. The next time we had recess, the teachers told everyone that we couldn't listen to music anymore. And it was my fault. I was bullied a lot. That didn't help. I told my pre-calc teacher I wanted to go into neuroscience and she straight up told me I wasn't smart enough for calculus and wouldn't never had the skills required to achieve that dream. And before you ask, no, I did not take calculus, per her suggestion, and never went on to study neuroscience. She was so blunt when she spoke to me and I was so afraid of failure that I pretty much dropped the dream after high school. Maybe I'm being sensitive, but it really bothered me when I was in the 3rd grade learning cursive writing and my teacher held up my paper to the class of how not to do the practice sheet. This happened to me at least 20 times throughout my school life. My 1st grade teacher would tell the boys if they walked like a girl then they would have to walk in the girls' line for the day. No idea what walking like a girl meant back then and I still don't. However, one day I was accused of walking like a girl and was sent to walk in that line. It made me self-conscious about how I walked for decades. When I was in 4th grade we had a day at a resort for our school trip. The resort had this really nice big pool and all the children were allowed to go play there. I didn't know how to swim and so I stayed in the shallow side the entire time. The physical education teacher, who was supposed to be our lifeguard, saw me standing to the side, pulled me by my hair and dragged me all the way to the deepest part of the pool and just shoved me underwater. The whole time I was screaming because I didn't know how to swim and my parents had specifically told me not to get to the deep side of the pool. He held my head underwater for what felt like forever and then just let go and I was left to drown. Luckily, one of my friends who knew how to swim reached to me by then and pulled me out. There were almost 5 to 6 other teachers standing around who saw what happened and none of them did a thing. My whole mood for the rest of the day was speep. And I ended up changing schools the next year. But to this day, I can't swim properly. And I've been trying to learn for 2 years. Thanks to this asshole. My second grade teacher told me I was a terrorist simply because of my religion. She also tried to fail me so I'd be held back a year, but that backfired since I was in the GT program at my school. In 9th grade I was in a class called Teen Challenge or something like that. Basically it covered teen health issues. Think like physical and mental health. Anyways, we were discussing body mass index and classification of overweight, obese, etc. I raised my hand and said something. I can't even remember what. But the teacher looked me up and down and said, "I'm sure you are considered overweight." It absolutely devastated me. Being a young, self-conscious girl, Fpin bitch was morbidly obese too. Damn her. There is a saying. The camel can't see its own hump. But she sounds much worse than a camel. At least camels get you somewhere. 6th grade. We went around the room reading poems. A close family member just died recently. And the poem was about death of a loved one. I said I didn't want to read it but she forced me to. I did my best not to cry. She didn't realize, she said later. She apologized. But I developed a phobia of public speaking because of this event that lasted for several years. At least she apologized, thankfully. I would give an award. But I don't have any money. In 3rd grade had a teacher that was just awful. I don't even think she liked kids at all. After we completed a test, and they were all graded, the whole class would stand up. She would start with the top scores, give them candy, and let them sit down. So by the end, the kids that did the worst were left standing for everyone to stare at them and make them feel bad. I was often one of those last standing kids. It was humiliating. Humiliated me when I said that the moon is sometimes visible during the day. She made the whole class laugh at me because everybody knows that the is visible during the day and the moon only comes out at night. Still get so triggered anytime I see the moon during the day. Science was my favorite class. But I don't think I raised my hand to answer a question for a couple years after that. I was in 5th grade. And there was a lull in class. We were all kind of hanging out. I think I was reading. Then the male teacher came and sat on top of the desk behind me and started rapping with me and the group of about 6 other girls sitting near me about something stupid related to our math that day. Out of nowhere he says, "And we can do our math problems on my name's back." Then he takes one finger and starts writing out big numbers on my backs like 12x15, etc. I'm squirming in my seat because I don't like it and I'm especially self-conscious because I was early in my bra-wearing years. I remember seeing the other girls look at me and laughing and not registering that I did not find it funny. Dude finally stopped. I can't remember if it was because I got up or turned around or what. Regardless, I never liked him after that and avoided him for the rest of the year and my time at that school. In 8th grade during gym class my teacher stopped the class so I could learn how to serve a volleyball. He said the class won't start until I properly serve a volleyball. Everyone in my class had to sit and stare while I was forced to serve a volleyball multiple times until I got it right. Special math class. Grade 4. Incorrect answer? That gets a nice sharp ruler across the back of the head. Not the little 12-inch one. The 36-inch yardstick. I got some special attention and while writing on the board got my head smashed into the blackboard many times. I was told if I said anything I would be put to death. People still don't know why I get rather anxious at math these days and why I will not let anyone get bullied around me. I'm Mexican with tan skin and I stayed after school with a substitute teacher to get some help with my HW. She was trying to get to know me and asked, "So, where are your parents from India?" I had a teacher in high school tell me that my parents' marriage wasn't valid in her eyes because my mom had been divorced before she met my dad.